Prince Andrew is demanding a trial by jury and has formally denied all the allegations against him, as he gave a court in New York his official response to allegations. In a twist that's left royal watchers stunned, Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson's secret £15 million palace in Abu Dhabi has finally been exposed, and the details are jaw-dropping. Far from the public eye, this lavish estate reportedly served as their hidden getaway, complete with luxury suites, private gardens, and security fit for royalty. But why was it kept so secret, and who really funded it? As new documents surface, questions about Andrew and Sarah's mysterious ties to Abu Dhabi are raising more eyebrows than ever before. A royal legacy too heavy to let go. Royal Lodge is not simply a residence. It is the last living shard of the world Prince Andrew once inhabited. A world of ceremony, privilege, and unquestioned belonging. Tucked deep within the 78 acres of Windsor Great Park, the estate is shielded from view by sweeping lawns, winding drives, and ancient trees that whisper of royal secrets. To the public, it is just another royal property, but to Andrew, it is the place where his story began and the place where he now refuses to let it end. The lodge carries a history soaked in memory. It was once the cherished home of the Queen Mother, a woman known for her warmth, wit, and unshakable devotion to tradition. She adored Andrew not just as a grandson, but as a favored companion. During his childhood, the lodge was a sanctuary where he felt admired, supported, and seen. In those early rooms, corridors, and gardens, Andrew learned confidence, charm, and the sense that he had a rightful place in the world. That emotional imprint never left him. The lease arrangement he secured in 2003 was extraordinary, almost unbelievable to anyone not born into royalty. He paid $1 million upfront for a 75-year lease with minimal annual rent under one key condition: that he would fund the extensive repairs and renovations required to preserve the historic property. In exchange, he gained something rare, even among royals: stability, permanence, a kingdom of his own. Where others moved between palaces according to duty, assignment, or public image, Andrew had a home that would remain his until the year 2078. A lifetime guarantee, a promise that no matter how the world changed, Royal Lodge would still be there, waiting for him to return each night. But time has a way of revealing what permanence cannot protect. As public sentiment shifted, as headlines grew darker and scandals sharpened into accusations, the lodge began to look different in the eyes of the world. What had once symbolized loyalty to heritage now seemed to represent something else: an untouched bubble of privilege sealed off from the consequences that ordinary people face. To outsiders, Royal Lodge is far more than a grand home. It is proof of a prince cocooned by centuries-old privilege living beyond the reach of ordinary rules. Proof of entitlement, immunity, and a world untouched by consequence. While the monarchy seeks to modernize and reshape itself for today's era, he continues to inhabit a life defined by old power, influence, and untouchable status. But to Andrew, the lodge remains everything he has left. It is his identity, his memory, his proof that he still belongs to the House of Windsor. Leaving it would not merely mean relocating to another residence. It would mean surrendering the last piece of the world that once celebrated him. It would mean accepting that the prince he once was no longer exists. And so behind the tall iron gates, life continues. Andrew walks the grounds where he once played as a child. He eats in the dining room where the Queen Mother once sat. He sleeps under a roof that to him still feels like protection. He refuses to leave Windsor, the last symbol that still grants him dignity. But how long can a fallen prince hold on to a palace that no longer wants to belong to him? And what happens when the crown decides to take it back? Does he even have a refuge to turn to? Let's find out. The silent palace in the desert, thousands of miles away from the sprawling forests and winding paths of Windsor, under the blazing sun of the Arabian desert, a palace lies in silence, waiting in Abu Dhabi, tucked within an exclusive compound far from prying eyes and media cameras, stands a residence of staggering luxury. Maintained meticulously by the House of Nan, one of the most powerful royal families in the Gulf, the estate exudes wealth and sophistication at every turn. Its marble hallways gleam even without footsteps. Balconies carved with intricate detail cast shadows over gardens that are quietly tended. And walled courtyards offer private sanctuaries where even the world's most intrusive gaze cannot reach. The palace's value is enormous, stretching into the tens of millions of pounds. Yet, for all its grandeur, the rooms remain empty and untouched, like a stage awaiting a performer who will never appear. Every corner, every polished surface whispers stories of hospitality offered, alliances formed, and friendships cemented. But it is a stage that Andrew has not stepped onto, a life he has not embraced. Unlike Royal Lodge, the Abu Dhabi Palace is not his to claim or own. Ownership rests with the Emirati royal family, a silent promise of generosity rather than permanence. Andrew may walk the halls, sleep in the grand chambers, stroll the shaded gardens, but he can never truly make it his home. It is offered through bonds and friendships forged during a time when his influence as the United Kingdom's special representative for international trade and investment extended across the Gulf. During those years, he cultivated relationships, attended investment forums, and traveled frequently to Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Those ties now provide a door, an escape hatch from relentless media scrutiny, public outrage, and the relentless glare of a monarchy under pressure. The palace could offer him peace, privacy, and the rare luxury of disappearing from the headlines. It could shield him from the judgment that follows him across Windsor and London, from the scandals that dog him wherever he goes. It could be a haven, a retreat, a world apart from the controversies that have made Royal Lodge a battleground as much as a home. And yet Andrew does not move, because stepping inside the palace in Abu Dhabi permanently would come at a price that he cannot or will not pay. To take up residence, there would be to step away from the House of Windsor completely, to leave behind the last visible remnants of royal identity that still define him. It would be a voluntary exile, a quiet acknowledgement that the chapter of his life as a working prince has closed. And that is a step Andrew refuses to take, so the palace remains immaculate, silent, and waiting, a monument to privilege he can use but never truly possess. A world of luxury, freedom, and anonymity stands ready just a flight away, yet it is a life forever out of reach. A life where the sun beats down on marble floors and shaded courtyards, and yet without Andrew feels only half alive. In this desert palace, the story is frozen in expectation, a residence built for royalty, yet unclaimed, a promise offered, yet declined, a quiet reminder that even the grandest of escapes cannot replace the ties, the identity, and the pride that anchor a prince to the life he knows. Even as the world outside moves on, millions in luxury await Andrew in a hidden Emirati palace. Yet, the cost of leaving England might be his royal identity. But what circumstances open the doors to this secret residence? Now, let's dive into the story of Prince Andrew's Gulf mission, royal diplomacy amid revolt. In early December 2010, as the Middle East teetered on the edge of upheaval and murmurs of revolution stirred across the region. Prince Andrew, the Queen's second son, wandered thoughtfully through New York's Central Park. Surrounded by the city's winter bustle, he bore more than a personal presence. He carried the weight of Britain's monarchy, representing the crown in a region known for its delicate politics and controversial alliances. Each step echoed responsibility, diplomacy, and scrutiny as he prepared to navigate the complex world of Middle Eastern power, influence, and emerging unrest. A royal envoy in uncertain times. At the time, the Middle East was on the verge of seismic change. The winds of the Arab Spring were already stirring, and governments long considered untouchable faced mounting domestic pressures. Yet Andrew's mission was to engage with leaders often criticized for repressing their own citizens. Over the course of his diplomatic work, he attended over 70 meetings with rulers and officials throughout the Gulf, navigating a delicate landscape where diplomacy and optics were inseparable. Each handshake, each official dinner carried the subtle but heavy responsibility of representing the United Kingdom, and a monarchy increasingly scrutinized on the global stage. Following his engagements in New York, Andrew traveled to the United Arab Emirates, embarking on a 4-day visit designed to strengthen ties between Britain and the UAE ruling families. These were not ordinary diplomatic meetings. They were carefully orchestrated encounters with powerful figures whose influence stretched across commerce, energy, and geopolitics. One of the most notable moments of the trip came when Andrew had lunch with Sheikh Sir bin Mohammed Al Nahyan, a senior member of Abu Dhabi's royal family and a key figure in the city's Abu Dhabi Trade Center. Their meeting was both a gesture of goodwill and a reminder of the intricate web of connections between British royalty and Gulf elites. The culmination of Andrew's UAE visit occurred on Sunday, the 27th of November 2011, when he met Mohammed bin Zayed, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, commonly known as MBZ, at Patin Palace, one of Emirates' most prestigious royal residences. The encounter was emblematic of the prince's role as a diplomatic envoy, formal yet personal, ceremonial yet strategic. Within the palace's ornate halls, discussions ranged from trade agreements to investment opportunities, reflecting both the practical and symbolic significance of such visits. Andrew's presence was intended to signal continuity, friendship, and mutual interest between Britain and the Gulf, even as political upheaval loomed on the horizon. These visits, recorded in public schedules but often shielded from detailed reporting, highlight a chapter of Prince Andrew's life where royal duty intersected with international controversy. His role demanded a delicate balancing act, promoting British interests abroad while maintaining the dignity and image of a royal embroiled in the eyes of the public in an increasingly complex and scrutinized network of personal and political alliances. Walking through Central Park months earlier, the prince may have contemplated the gravity of such responsibilities. Yet in Abu Dhabi's palaces, he stepped into a world where tradition, wealth, and influence intertwined, revealing a side of royal diplomacy rarely seen by the general public. He explored the Gulf countries, carefully building connections and earning trust. Could this be how he gained access to the hidden palace? But will Andrew ever take up residence there? And will his separated yet loyal companion, Sarah Ferguson, join him? Now, let's unravel a life rebuilt within the gates. Sarah Ferguson and the preservation of identity. Sarah Ferguson continues to live alongside Prince Andrew at Royal Lodge, a shared residence that binds them not only through history, but through mutual reliance, loyalty, and a quiet understanding of the life they once inhabited together. To the outside world, the image of the former Duchess of York living under the same roof as her ex-husband may seem unusual, even perplexing. Yet within the walls of this 30-room mansion, the arrangement is practical, protective, and deeply symbolic. An affirmation that for both of them, Royal Lodge is more than just a home. Sarah's life has been marked by constant transformation. From public scandal that made her name a fixture in tabloids to earnest charity work, from ventures in media and television to forging her identity as simply Sarah Ferguson, she has repeatedly reinvented herself in the public eye. Each chapter of her life has demanded resilience, creativity, and an ability to weather criticism, scrutiny, and sometimes outright hostility. Through it all, Royal Lodge has remained her anchor, a place of continuity amid the turbulence of reinvention. It is the constant in a life that has otherwise swung between triumphs and setbacks, a place where her status, identity, and connection to a world she once moved through with royalty intact are preserved. The Lodge does more than provide shelter. It protects her identity, stabilizes her narrative, and shields her from complete removal from the life she once occupied. It is here, amid its gardens and halls steeped in history, that she maintains a sense of presence, a link to influence, and a grounding in the rituals and privileges of a royal past that still defines her. For Sarah, leaving would not simply be a relocation. It would be a symbolic surrender, an acknowledgement that her ties to royal life are severed, and a relinquishment of the status she has fought to reclaim over decades. Her position is unwavering. Sarah Ferguson will not move to the Gulf. Despite the grandeur and privacy of the palace in Abu Dhabi that waits thousands of miles away, the heat, the distance, the foreign customs, and the loss of connection to Windsor's familiar terrain make the idea unthinkable. For her, the Lodge is more than bricks and stone. It is the final bastion of control over her life, reputation, and connection to the world of privilege she has navigated with grit and determination. To lose Royal Lodge would be to lose her last tangible link to the monarchy, her foothold in a chapter of life she has continually strived to reclaim. It would not only remove her from the physical space of status in history, but also strip away the symbolic protections and continuity that have allowed her to reinvent herself again and again. Within its walls, Sarah can remain relevant, grounded, and dignified even as the world shifts its focus elsewhere. It is here that she asserts her agency, her loyalty to history, and her refusal to be cast aside into obscurity. In short, Royal Lodge is Sarah Ferguson's anchor in a world that has demanded she rebuild herself repeatedly, the stage on which she preserves identity, asserts loyalty, and protects the life she refuses to surrender. It is where she stands, steadfast and unyielding alongside Andrew, a testament to survival, resilience, and the quiet power of refusing to let go of what matters most. To lose Royal Lodge would mean losing her last tie to the life she fought to reclaim. Yet Sarah still travels with Andrew, even to the Gulf, showing their enduring bond. Could these journeys be a way to protect what remains, if asked to leave? Now, let's explore a bond that never broke. The unfinished story of Andrew and Sarah. Though Sarah Ferguson and Prince Andrew have been separated for nearly 3 decades, the distance of divorce has never diminished the unusual closeness that continues to define their relationship. Time, public scrutiny, and the many scandals that have surrounded them could have driven a wedge between most couples. But for Andrew and Sarah, the ties that bind them have remained resilient, woven from shared history, loyalty, and a mutual understanding few outsiders can comprehend. They are no longer married, yet they still live intertwined lives in subtle and meaningful ways. They traveled together, dined together, and in countless small ways continue to affirm the bond that began long before their separation in 2019. This unique partnership was on full display when the former couple attended the Bahrain Grand Prix, accompanied by their daughter, Princess Beatrice. The family appeared composed, united in shared purpose and enjoyment, even in an environment thrumming with international attention. For the casual observer, it may have seemed unusual, but for those who know the couple, such outings are a natural extension of the connection that neither time nor circumstance has weakened. Their daughter, Princess Eugenie, has captured the essence of this relationship in her own words, describing them as the best divorced couple I know. The statement is more than a compliment. It is a recognition of a partnership defined not by romance or daily proximity, but by enduring respect, shared responsibility, and deep familial loyalty. Sarah herself has never hidden her admiration for Andrew's character. In 2019, she publicly called him a gentleman steadfast in honor and truth, praising the values he continues to embody despite the relentless scrutiny of the media and public opinion. These words reveal more than affection. They hint at the recognition of resilience, integrity, and a rare constancy in a life otherwise marked by public turbulence and personal reinvention. Andrew is in many ways Sarah's constant, a figure whose presence reminds her of stability, shared history, and the life they once built together. For Sarah, Andrew is far more than a former husband. He embodies a chapter of her life that remains alive, unresolved, and deeply woven into her story. A familiar presence she cannot simply erase. Their bond defies conventional ideas of divorce and family, proving that love, loyalty, and partnership can endure long after romance fades. Together, they show that some connections transcend endings, surviving through shared history, mutual respect, and unwavering trust. Within the grand yet secluded walls of Royal Lodge, and in the rare moments they share traveling or attending public events, Andrew and Sarah's unusual bond quietly endures. Their connection shapes not only their daily lives, but also challenges the world's expectations, showing that family can exist beyond traditional norms, defined by loyalty, trust, and shared history rather than marriage, titles, or conventional appearances. In a world where titles, privilege, and public opinion can isolate and define, Sarah and Andrew have maintained a personal truth that is quietly remarkable. Their partnership, born of history, forged in shared experiences, and strengthened by mutual respect, remains a steady anchor amid the storms of royal life. It is a bond both enduring and extraordinary, showing that some relationships are defined not by endings, but by the loyalty, care, and connection that survive long after formal ties dissolve. But how long can they preserve this bond within the royal house? Now, let's uncover the crown's quiet ultimatum. Pressure, privilege, and the battle for Windsor. Pressure is mounting, invisible yet relentless, from the very heart of the monarchy itself. King Charles, determined to reshape, streamline, and modernize the royal institution, faces a delicate but urgent challenge. His younger brother, Prince Andrew, continues to occupy Royal Lodge, a residence increasingly seen as a symbol of privilege, defiance, and scandal. For the king, ignoring the situation is no longer an option. The mansion, its sprawling grounds, and its high-profile occupant have become a focal point for public criticism, parliamentary whispers, and media scrutiny. Every headline about unpaid rents, extravagant maintenance, or unresolved controversies only adds weight to the crown's dilemma. Behind the palace walls, private conversations have already taken place. The message is clear but delivered in hushed tones. Andrew has been told in no uncertain terms that he must act voluntarily, vacate Royal Lodge, or face a formal removal orchestrated by the Crown. The stakes are enormous. A forced eviction would not simply be a legal maneuver. It would be a highly visible, politically charged spectacle, sparking debates over royal privilege, taxpayer funding, and fairness. The cost, both financially and reputationally, would be immense, and the fallout could damage the monarchy's carefully curated image. Despite mounting pressure and quiet warnings from the palace, Prince Andrew remains shielded by the law. His 75-year lease, the upfront payments, and the millions invested in renovations make any eviction far from straightforward. Forcibly removing him would be costly, complicated, and likely ignite public outrage. The Crown cannot act impulsively. It must navigate a delicate balance, asserting authority while respecting legal protections, applying pressure without overstepping, and upholding royal dignity even as it confronts a prince whose privileges clash with public expectations. In this standoff, patience and strategy outweigh brute force. So rather than a public confrontation, the palace applies pressure in subtler ways. Silence becomes a tool. Strategic messaging, leaks, and carefully timed disclosures place Andrew under constant scrutiny. Advisors and courtiers monitor his actions, weighing options and testing responses, while the wider world watches from a distance, sensing tension and anticipating a reckoning. Time itself becomes a lever stretching the moment of decision, allowing public opinion, media coverage, and political pressure to compound. For Prince Andrew, life within Royal Lodge is a daily balancing act of defiance and vulnerability. Each step through its halls reinforces his last claim to status, yet also magnifies public scrutiny and moral expectation. He clings to the past, to titles and traditions, even as the world outside moves forward. For King Charles, every day his brother remains entrenched adds pressure on the monarchy's reputation, credibility, and trust. The royal institution faces a test far beyond scandal. It wrestles with family loyalty, legal boundaries, and the uneasy tension between duty and the relentless gaze of a modern public. In this quiet, high-stakes chess game, every move is calculated, every silence intentional, and every moment carries consequences. The longer Andrew stays, the heavier the tension grows, not just for him, but for the crown, the royal family, and the very image of the monarchy. Royal Lodge is no longer just a home. It has become a battleground of influence, identity, and survival. But will he leave willingly, or will the palace be forced to act? Now, let's unravel the silent battle for the House of York. Two homes, one uncertain end. A tense, unspoken standoff now hangs over the royal landscape, invisible yet impossible to ignore. At the heart of it is Royal Lodge, still defended, still inhabited, a fortress of privilege and stubbornness. Across the globe, in the shimmering heat of Abu Dhabi, a palace sits immaculate, its marble halls untouched, gardens meticulously maintained, and staff waiting silently for a life that has not arrived. Two residences thousands of miles apart, yet each tells a story about power, choice, and the costs of past decisions. The House of York, meanwhile, has retreated into a guarded existence. Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson, and their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, have become increasingly protective of their privacy, aware that the world outside is shifting in ways that no palace walls can fully shield them from. Once a family associated with charm, glamour, and modernity, they now move cautiously, measured, and strategically, conscious of the scrutiny that shadows their every action. Royal engagements are rare, public appearances even rarer. Their lives are a careful dance, balancing family loyalty with the pressures of public judgment. Royal Lodge remains a symbol of defiance. Within its walls, Andrew continues to assert his place, however shadowed, within the monarchy. Leaving it would be more than a physical relocation. It would be an acknowledgement that the House of Windsor has moved on without him, that the last threads of his royal identity have been severed. For Sarah Ferguson, the lodge is an anchor and refuge, protecting her identity, her history, and the delicate equilibrium between reinvention and tradition. The Abu Dhabi Palace, by contrast, embodies escape. It offers safety, distance, and silence, a retreat from relentless headlines and public censure. Yet, stepping into that life permanently would demand a sacrifice Andrew cannot bring himself to make. The surrender of what little royal identity he still holds. To leave Windsor would be to step into exile, to abandon the stage where he still counts, however minimally, and relinquish the status he clings to despite scandal, controversy, and mounting pressure. Between these two extremes, defiance and retreat, lies a question that grows heavier with each passing month. Will Andrew leave willingly, yielding to the weight of public scrutiny and familial expectation? Or will he be forced into a calculated exile, a decision dictated by the crown and circumstance rather than personal choice? The answer will not merely resolve a dispute over property. It will determine a battle for identity, legacy, and relevance that has played out over decades. Until the moment of reckoning comes, the scandal refuses to fade. It seeps into every newspaper headline, whispers through the halls of Westminster, and hums in every cafe and conversation among the public. It watches silently from Windsor streets, from London's bustling heart, and even from the sun-drenched desert, where a hidden palace stands, a silent monument to privileges once claimed and chances postponed. The stakes are immense, the tension relentless, and the story is far from over, still unfolding with quiet intensity. In this tense standoff, each passing day weighs heavily, every choice ripples far beyond the family, and every quiet moment whispers of power, pride, and sacrifice. It is a story of a once glittering royal life slipping away, of status clung to fiercely, and of the price paid for holding on to a fading claim to grandeur. So, what do you think their next move would be? Will they stay in the Royal Lodge or consider relocating? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.